I'm going to be talking to you in sound bites and try to give you digestible pieces to work with, and you have to be clear that just taking that little bit of advice or that little tip isn't going to necessarily enable you to do anything dramatic, but what it will do, I hope, is get you excited about learning something that will produce some dramatic results for you. So bear that in mind, right? Learning isn't about tips and techniques, it's about building new competence. And what we want to do is focus on some of these competencies that you're probably going to want to build. There we go. Well, you know, we're talking all the time to business owners, small business owners in particular, my favorite kind of topic because I'm a small business owner. And people are always asking me, you know, what advice would you give to small business owners today? And it's not a simple thing like, oh, here you go. But what you want to pay attention to is we're in a really interesting moment in time. You know, it's very easy to get kind of overwhelmed with all that's going on in the world. As we're sitting here talking, we're in the midst of, well, the world's in the midst of a war of one way or another with Russia. Who would have thought? And then the economy, the technological forces, all this stuff is bringing on a dramatic amount of change. And with that, two things are possible. One, you can get overwhelmed and disconcerted by it, or you can embrace it and understand that everything that changes, that's the normal way of life. The change is the only constant in life. But every time something's changing, it does two things. It opens and closes possibilities. And what you want to be on the hunt for is the possibilities that it opens, and the ones that it closes are just as important. But for you as a business owner, you want your eye on what's possible. What's possible? What was possible now that wasn't 3 weeks, 3 months, 3 years ago? And then you want to look and see, how can I take advantage of that, right? What an entrepreneur is just simply a guy who sees something on the periphery of the economy, of society, something new, different, a possibility, and finds a way to mainstream it, right? So that's your challenge. How do I, as a small business owner, and it doesn't matter what kind of business you're in, how do I keep my mind open? How do I look for possibilities? And then, how do I take action and bring those possibilities to life?
I'm not a doctor, but had I been one, I would have been great. My diagnostic skills, my bedside manner, my education, beyond reproach. I'm not a lawyer, but I could have been, and had I been, my briefs would have been the briefest. My objections would have been the most objectionable, and obviously I would have finished at the top of my law school class. I'm not an accountant either, but had I been, I would have been a hell of an accountant. I would have had the greatest appreciation for depreciation. I would have worked for Fortune 600 companies. If we were any of these professionals, our greatest concern would be finding new business. What I actually am is a video producer, and over the last 30 years, I've come to appreciate the power of an on-camera testimonial. A resume is great, it's helpful. It tells the reader what you've done, but it doesn't tell them who you are. At Up Close and Professional, or ucapro.com, we will help you present yourself, tell your own story on camera. Now, obviously, there are many other ways of marketing yourself and your business. But statistics prove, and we believe strongly, that video is the most influential, compelling, and frankly cost-effective way of increasing your business. And that is our business, to help you find new business. We're video producers, but we're also storytellers. Let us help you tell your story. Go to the website, ucapro.com, check out some of the work, get in touch, and let us help you connect to the people who are looking for you.
I grew up a incredibly hardcore Red Sox fan, and my dad would probably turn over in his grave to find out that I actually, may have treated a couple of Yankees. He probably would have been really, really upset about that. I'm actually a liver surgeon. I do a lot of GI and liver surgery. I probably had the largest liver practice, or one of the largest ones in the world, for a long time. I was at Duke University. And I was in a position down at Duke back in the mid-late 80s where I was just seeing lots of abdominal and groin injuries in these athletes, and there was a term, sports hernia, back then. Well, actually, term sports hernia is just a bad term. These are a whole bunch of different injuries that occur within the 24, 25 or so muscles that are in the pelvis. Well, I'm looking at your MRI, and you've got something going on in here. There's, on the right side, that's where you have your pain, isn't it? I get the most gratification out of coming up with the right diagnosis. Sometimes it's by luck, because we're in a field where there's new things that we're figuring out all the time. And if the patient has been to a number of different folks and they just can't figure out the pain, and we happen to figure it out, and then you do something, they get better, that's kind of neat. Often I'll see someone and they have a labral tear and an impingement that's really been hard to diagnose, and I send them off to one of my colleagues. There's a few guys in the country that I really trust in terms of the care of these things, and they come back and they're as happy as can be, and often appreciate that we were able to figure it out somehow. So that's as much fun for me as if I had made the person better. I want you to push in with your knee that way against this. Is that body don't? I grew up an athlete and feel I can identify with athletes specifically. Everybody's driven somehow. So in a sense, everybody's an athlete. Everybody has some degree of competitiveness to them. The weekend warrior and the high-profile athlete have a lot in common. And even the person who just wants to stay in good shape and gets frustrated from doing that, I mean, that's sort of a competition within yourself. My goal, my thinking about it, is to make people perform at their very best no matter who they are.